Title: Three Friends Stay in a Haunted House. It started as a joke, a challenge too tempting to refuse. But by the time the night was over, the joke turned into a nightmare. None of them could escape. Jason, Mark, and Lily had been best friends for as long as they could remember. Small town life had its perks, but there was one thing the town's residents were unanimously afraid of: the old Whitaker house on the edge of town. The crumbling mansion sat abandoned, its dark windows glaring out like dead eyes, and every local knew the stories. People whispered about the strange occurrences there: screams in the night, lights flickering in empty rooms, and the eerie presence of the Whitaker family that had vanished without a trace. It was a place avoided, respected for the danger it held. But that didn't stop Jason from daring Mark and Lily. They were young, adventurous, and eager to prove their courage. "Let's do it tonight," Jason said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "We'll stay there until sunrise. No turning back." Mark, always up for a challenge, laughed and agreed, but Lily wasn't so sure. Her grandmother's warnings echoed in her mind. "Don't go near that house, child. There's evil in there. It doesn't just take people, it keeps them." But Jason's challenge was too much. With a deep breath, she followed them. At midnight, the three friends made their way through the overgrown path leading to the Whitaker house. The wind rustled through the trees, a cold whisper that felt unnatural. The house stood like a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky, its porch sagging and its windows like gaping mouths. Jason pushed the front door open, the hinges squealing in protest. Inside, the air was stale, and the faint smell of decay clung to the walls. The floor creaked under their feet, the sound echoing in the silence. The house felt alive. Lily shivered, but Mark waved it off. "Let's just get this over with," he said, his voice already growing uneasy. They explored the house, the flashlight beam cutting through the shadows. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, strange patterns emerging in the rot. A face here, a hand there. But it wasn't until they found the staircase that the real fear began to settle in. The stairs creaked under their weight as they made their way up. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway stretched out before them. Each door closed, each shadow deep and unnerving. But at the very end of the hallway, a door stood slightly ajar. A cold draft slipped through the gap, making Lily's skin prickle. "That's where we're going," Jason declared, pushing open the door. The room inside was strange. Unlike the rest of the house, it was pristine. Almost too pristine, as if time had left it untouched. There were no signs of decay here. Dustless furniture, unbroken mirrors, and an antique table at the center, with 3 chairs arranged around it. It looked like someone was expecting them. "This is weird," Mark muttered, eyeing the chairs. "We're here," Jason said, grinning. He pulled out a bottle of whiskey and a glass, filling it to the brim. To not backing down, Lily's unease deepened. "Are we really doing this?" Mark laughed nervously, raising his glass. "Just relax. It's just an old house." They clinked their glasses together, but the moment the glass touched their lips, the air around them shifted. A soft whisper filled the room, barely audible at first. "Get out." Lily's stomach turned. She looked around, her pulse quickening. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Jason laughed it off, but the whisper came again, louder, clearer. "Get out." The glass slipped from Lily's hand and shattered on the floor. Jason, Mark, and Lily froze. The room suddenly colder. The air felt thick, suffocating. The whispers grew louder, and now they weren't coming from the walls. They were coming from somewhere inside their heads. A shadow shifted in the corner of the room. Too fast, too dark. Lily turned, her heart racing. The shadow was gone, but its presence lingered, oppressive and threatening. Jason stood up, trying to shake off the growing unease. "It's just a house, let's explore more." But as he moved toward the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang. The room shook, and a low, guttural sound reverberated through the walls. The chairs rattled. "What the hell?" Mark whispered, eyes wide in panic. A figure appeared in the doorway. It was tall, too tall, its limbs impossibly long. The shape of a person, but not quite. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, but as it moved closer, the air grew colder, and the darkness around it seemed to crawl. "Leave!" The whisper came again, more forceful this time. Jason turned to the door, his hand on the handle. He pulled, but the door wouldn't budge. His eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, but there was nowhere to run. The figure stepped forward, its presence swallowing the room. "Get out!" Mark screamed, but his voice sounded distant, like it was being sucked into the void. The figure raised its hand, and the walls around them groaned in agony. The floor shifted beneath their feet, and the room seemed to warp, twisting like a living thing. Jason tried to run, but something gripped him, something unseen, something cold. His body was pulled back toward the table, his face contorted in terror. Lily turned, but Mark was no longer beside her. He was standing in the corner, his eyes wide, his mouth moving, but no sound came out. His expression was frozen, his body rigid, as if he was already trapped, already one of them. The figure approached, its hollow eyes now visible under the hood. They were black, empty. And then it spoke again, its voice a raspy whisper that vibrated through their bones. "You're not leaving, not without us." The floor split open beneath them. Jason's scream echoed as the darkness swallowed him whole. Mark fell to his knees, his eyes still locked on Lily, his mouth opening in silent pleas. Lily backed away, her legs trembling. She bolted for the door, throwing her weight against it, but it wouldn't open. She was trapped, trapped with the figure, with the house, with the darkness. Suddenly, the door flew open, as if pulled by some invisible hand. Lily ran, stumbled down the stairs, and pushed open the front door, gasping for air. The night was cold, and the world outside felt wrong, empty, as though nothing was real anymore. She glanced back. Jason and Mark stood in the window, their faces twisted, their eyes hollow. They were staring at her. No, they weren't staring. Their eyes were unseeing, but they were there, twisted into grotesque masks. And they didn't look like her friends anymore. Lily turned to run, but the figure stood before her, blocking her path. It was taller now, impossibly tall, and its eyes, the void that had once been a face, now swirled with something dark, something ancient. "You'll never leave," it whispered. And in that moment, Lily understood. The house wasn't done with her. It had claimed her friends, and now it wanted her. No one ever left the Whitaker house. No one. Her scream was swallowed by the darkness. The Whitaker house still stands on the edge of town, but no one dares go near it. The stories still circulate, the whispers growing louder with each passing year. But no one knows the truth. No one knows what really happens inside. And those who do, don't leave. If you enjoy the story, subscribe to the channel and like the video and comment your thoughts about this video.